Yes, sir. We're live. KO Nation podcast.
Here we go. Me and Kevin are back. We got a fight tonight. Oh my God. Devin Haney, Kambosos going at it, both undefeated. This is when the best fight the best, and this is what we get tonight. And boxing's been on a roll, and me and Kevin trying to get on a roll right now. Kevin, let's hit it.
Unbelievable! You want to throw sometime? Bang! Oh, my God! Okay, Chip. 7 rounds to 2.
What's good, Kev? What's new? What's good, brother?
Nothing much. It's just busy, you know. Thought try to throw together a quick show because, I mean, this is a very significant fight that we have today. George Kambosos versus Devin Haney for the undisputed lightweight championship. I'm giving Devin Haney a lot of credit. I mean, he's definitely must have a lot of confidence to go over to the other guy's backyard in front of all his crazy Greek / Australian fans. Kambosos is of Greek descent, and apparently where they're fighting, I believe it's in Melbourne, Australia, is has a huge Greek population. So they're going to be cheering for everything that Kambosos does, and Haney's job is just to go in there and basically, if the crowd is very quiet, you know who's winning the fight. That's kind of like my assessment there. How do you perceive this one going? Do you want to give some analysis, prediction, or how do you want to approach this, John?
Yes, of course. Of course. I want to start off with, playing off of what you were saying right there about Haney. I mean, he's got balls, all right? Like balls of concrete steel to do what he's doing. And great record, obviously unbeaten. This is for undisputed. He's only 23 years old. He's daring to be great. You know, Kambosos, he's definitely a very, very talented player, also unbeaten. This requires a lot of skill and will to go out there for both guys, whether you're in your own backyard or someone else's, home state or country or territory. And, we're starting to see these young cats, like we just saw with Gervonta Davis, what was that, last week? Just look tremendous. Yeah. We're starting to see these guys really now starting to press the envelope. And I think that, in my personal opinion, even though Haney is a little bit younger, I think that he's going to
5 years younger. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little bit younger. Yeah, we got an age differential of 28 for Kambosos and 23 for Haney. So, I just
so you're going safe.
Yeah,
you're going safe with what Haney by unanimous decision.
I think these guys are going to bang it out. So I think maybe a late stoppage that Haney obtains.
Really?
He gets. Yeah, I think he might try to dare to be great.
He doesn't have a lot of knockouts, at least at the top level. He's not
15 KOs.
He's not a
KOs, 22 fights. That's not bad.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, as far as at the top level, I think his last like 4 or 5 fights have all went 12 rounds. Even with Gamboa, who was pretty shop-worn, that fight went the distance. I don't even think he was able to drop Gamboa. So, I mean, it's a pretty bold prediction. But that being said, for him to really win decisively in Australia, he might need the knockout. So maybe, but I'll say this much. Like I said before, just for him to agree to go over there and actually, if he wins the fight, the rematch is mandated to be in Australia again. So, I mean, I think he is just really has a whole lot of guts. I don't think he's really worried too much about Kambosos or his style or anything like that. And I think part of that is Haney's not a knockout puncher. He's a boxer. And I think in his mind, he's like, okay, if I stick to my game plan, if I just, stick behind my jab, he's got more length. He's the better athlete. He's probably the naturally bigger fighter. I mean, he looks like somebody that could fill out and be a welterweight in the next couple of years. He's a lot younger. So, I mean, he's got most of the advantages. And Kambosos is not really that big of a puncher, but Kambosos does have some he has some pretty decent skills. I mean, he has some things he can do in there. But I think Haney's going to be able to neutralize, most of what Kambosos is able to do, even, his counterpunching. But I think for the most part, this is one of those bouts where you cannot look at Kambosos' performance that he had against Lopez and gauge how this fight is going to go. Lopez, normally more of a counter puncher, but he went in that fight with just pretty much giving Kambosos no respect whatsoever. He stood right in front of him the whole time, gave Kambosos every opportunity that he needed to pull off the upset victory. And Haney is not going to go in there with that attitude. He's a boxer, defense first type of fighter. But I think if it does become a slugfest and he has to bang, I think he can bang. I just think he's more of one of those fighters that
I agree.
He kind of sticks to. He just does. I mean, it's all about hitting your opponent and not getting hit yourself. And I think that's the philosophy that Devin Haney sticks to. But obviously, if it turns into a dogfight, I think he'll be able to handle it.
I really believe he'll be able to handle it. I think he gets better and better with each fight, does Haney. And he's got a lot of skill. And you don't just, throw yourself out there if you don't believe in yourself. He understands the consequences. He sat down at meetings and, people telling him, like, you're facing the hardest opposition of your career. Like, so this isn't like news to him. He's not going to go there and be surprised about maybe a difficult kind of firefight, or, maybe he trained so well that he is totally prepared for this. And he seems like a guy that's always one step ahead in Haney. Like, look at him. He was promoting himself at a very young age, self-promoting. And he's got a great family unit. This is a real thing. This isn't just like, I want to fight.
And actually, just to add into his family, there was a situation where his dad had a previous drug conviction from like the 90s or something. And he wasn't actually originally, they denied his visa. But, they pulled some strings, Top Rank. And from my understanding is Bill Haney, who's Devin Haney's trainer, that's his father, has been let into Australia. So he will be in the corner along with Yoel Judah, who's Zab Judah's dad. So I think those are going to be kind of the two guys running the corner. Excellent corner there. But even without Bill Haney there, I think Devin Haney, he's kind of always had other coaches working with him. It's not, a dictatorship where his dad's his only coach. And, I think his dad has worked, Haney's worked with a lot of different trainers, co-trainers. So, and he's very mature, I see that in him, but sometimes you'll see him on social media or you hear things about him just kind of talking crap over Twitter and whatnot. I think that's more to build his brand. But as far as from what I've seen from him over the last couple of years, he seems more like just all business. When he's training for a fight, he's all business. He doesn't seem like he's somebody who's really gets too much out of shape. Just a typical boxer. You know what I mean? Just blue collar. And I really think I think he's going to win the fight, but I think he's going to really need to make it decisive. He's another guy's hometown. He's got to make it clear cut because you know how these things go. You saw when Manny Pacquiao went to Australia and he had that fight against Jeff Horn. Most observers thought that Pacquiao won the fight pretty decisively. and somehow the Australian judges they gave the fight to Jeff Horn. So and actually there was a point in that fight where the referee was about to stop the fight in the 9th round. He said, "Show me something in the next round," and Horn showed him something. Didn't show a whole lot, but somehow he got the decision. I mean, it was a somewhat of an ugly fight, so that's something that Kambosos could kind of look at. If he can turn it into kind of an ugly fight, that favors him. If it's more of a boxing match, that favors Devin Haney.
They pulled that shit with George Foreman and Shannon Briggs. When they gave Shannon Briggs the nod against Foreman. And I thought it was clear that Foreman won the fight. Shannon did good. But, I mean, it's like I think there are certain points in boxing, like this is like a little bit conspiracy theory type shit right now, where judges or officials rather, want to get a fighter out from themselves. But then Manny Pacquiao, after the Horn fight, he looked great. He looked fucking fantastic, and then eventually he would lose, like they all do, because you can't not fight forever. You can't do it. It's just not gonna work. But Kev, I want to, before this was a quick hit today. Before we bounce, Gervonta Davis, that knockout was sensational. Can I get your thoughts on that?
I mean, I didn't see the whole fight. I saw some clips of the knockout. I mean, he did look. I mean, the knockout was great, but I mean, really, Raleigh just walked into the shot more than anything. He got a little bit reckless. But from what I was hearing, he made a very good account of himself, and I think if he would have just kind of stayed within himself and not let be a little bit too overeager and aggressive, and I think that's what got him caught. And obviously, like some of his awkward style that he has, I mean, he's just not a traditional prize fighter by any means. So that's probably what gave Davis, a lot of problems in there. But yeah, I mean, that was a good win for Davis, but obviously he's kind of on the outside as far as the lightweight division. He hasn't fought any of the big names yet. So we and obviously he's going to be watching very closely at this fight this weekend. He said
that's why I went to that.
He said he wants to fight Devin Haney, and but obviously even if Haney wins, there's an immediate there's a rematch clause in there. I guess it depends on how the fight goes. If Kambosos would take the immediate rematch, but we'll see what happens there. Before we go, I just quickly wanted to just some news and notes, just real quick. Big fight on Showtime for the 122-pound championship, WBC, WBO, super bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton. He's 20-0 with 8 KOs. He fights, excuse me, former champion Daniel Roman. Pretty good bout. The last bout, Stephen Fulton had that great fight of the year candidate with Brendan Figueroa. I mean, those guys were just basically throwing a million punches. Well, Figueroa was throwing a million punches, and Fulton was just figuring out how to get in between his
punches. Figueroa is throwing punches right now as we talk.
Yeah, it was a very close fight. And
yes, it was. Entertaining
Fulton
as well. Pulled
out a majority of the decision. Roman is a tough customer. That's a very good Showtime main event. The co-feature is David Morrell. I believe he's 5-0. David Morrell, he's a Cuban native. He lives in Minnesota. I think this is where the fight's going to be at. Is I think the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and David Morrell is. Do you know who he's fighting? I believe he's fighting a 15-1 prospect, but Morrell he looks like the goods, but he's been calling out David Benavidez. That's insane. This is pretty
You got
interesting.
time for that. You know, like you
I think he needs a little bit more
blossom
seasoning.
And
And
Benavidez, I mean, we all know about him.
Yeah.
You know, and we've seen him recently. He's a monster. Like,
yeah, he looks like the
gotta be a
goods, and I
special
think
kind of talent.
he has Canelo running for the hills. But anyways, who you got in this fight with Daniel Roman and Stephen Fulton? I think Fulton's gonna win, but I would not be shocked if Roman won, because Roman is a really tough, good fighter. He's got good skills. He's not the typical Mexican brawler type. I mean, I guess you could kind of call him a boxer puncher. What would you say? How much have you seen of Daniel Roman?
Oh, plenty. And my thing is that, you know, I'm not just trying to agree just to agree. I could not have said it better. This is to me, I'm not going to, maybe it's a 50-50 type fight, but you know, Fulton is very, very capable, obviously, of winning this fight. But then, you know, I look at Roman and it's like, man, this guy's dangerous opponent. And I think it's one of those, like a pick'em like type of scenario. And if you die hard like me and Kevin are, you'll understand what that means. And if you listen to this show, you're probably a diehard. So it's like gun to head, Fulton will pull it out. I don't know how, like in terms of if it's going to be a decision, a knockout, or whatever. But
yeah, Fulton's definitely the classically like the better boxer. Roman is a pretty good technical fighter as well. He's got a pretty solid record. You know, he doesn't have a lot of knockouts, but says what, 29-3-1, 10 KOs for Roman. But he can punch a little bit. I've seen some of his fights. I mean, don't let the KO ratio fool you. You know, he can crack a little bit. Anything else you want to add, John, before?
I will, because the thing is, like, the KO percentage, sometimes people look at things, you know, but it also depends on the opponent. Like, if a KO percentage is low, if someone's not engaging you, it's really hard to knock someone out if they're running away or whatever. But if you look at the records of some of these guys, when they're actually physically fighting and engaging toe to toe, you know, then they get banged up. They get, you know, bruises and knocked out. So it really depends on the opponent. Styles makes fights. Mr. Evander Holyfield would say this time and time to me again, over and over again. Styles makes fights. So sometimes someone's going to engage you and sometimes someone's going to run away from you, you know, and you got to figure out, you know, how to dismantle them and box them. So don't let that, like, those 10 knockouts, they happened for a reason, probably. You know what I'm saying?
He's a pretty good style in contrast to how Fulton fights. I think this is going to be a pretty entertaining fight, and I'm looking forward to the undercard. Yeah. The undercard to see how David Morrell looks, because I mean he's a great prospect. I don't think he's ready for David Benavidez at this point, but he's been calling them out. So yeah,
not ready for David Benavidez. I don't know who the hell on planet Earth is ready for my ninja sword background. Are not ready.
Arthur Beterbiev and Benavidez, anybody?
All right, I
just wanted to end the show on that thought. But anyways, John,
that's a Mortal Kombat mirror match.
Yes, sir. Anything you want to add before we get going?
I just want to tell everyone, have a great weekend. Stay tuned. We'll be back. Life's been crazy. We've been working our asses off, but we're here now. And let's go Yankees, man. We're kicking ass.
Go Giants.
Unbelievable. You want to throw sometime?